Welcome back to Athletes Corner. My name is Khalid Gray, and I have the pleasure to be joined with Jayda Gordon, this year's SWAC Bowler of the Year. Going into this year, your SWAC Bowler of the Year, you made SWAC first team. This is the second year consecutively that you've done it. So it's been a star-studded year. Let's just say it how it is.
Yes.
So we're gonna start from the beginning, though.
Okay.
Before we went live, you talked about you started bowling at 5 years old. So can you talk about your early years bowling, kind of from 5 years old to where you were in middle school, high school, and how you made that jump from high school to college?
Gotcha. So I started bowling when I was around 5 years old. My dad and his family, it's always been a thing on their side of the family to bowl. So I started picking up a bowling ball at 5. I got my first ball, which was a Hello Kitty bowling ball. And from then I started seeing other girls older than me bowling competitively and started figuring out that there's tournaments and that you can actually bowl professionally, you can bowl collegiately. So at around 8 or 9, I started bowling competitively and in competition. And since then, I moved bowling centers to the bowling center is called Lanes of Fort Meade. It's on the military base in Maryland, and I got better coaching, which then led me to continue to keep doing it after high school. And my skills have just since then developed, and I knew that I wanted to be a collegiate bowler and that I wanted to go to a D1 school and just be successful.
So bowling is one of the sports that aren't widely known or widely pushed to the community, that to the athletic community for us. So when we look at like Sports Center, we look at Ball is Life, or when we look at some of the bigger sports outlets, we don't really see a lot of bowling highlights. If anything, we see like the old white guy says, who am me, or I'm him, something like that. Some really old guy. But we typically see football, basketball, baseball, we see track, we see soccer. But when it comes to bowling, when we see that there's like the AAU circuits, we see that there's publication for that. But when it comes to bowling, how did you play in high school? How did you play in middle school? What were the tournaments? What were the leagues that you were in? And how was the public aspect of it? How was pushing your talents out there? How was it playing in those leagues and getting your name out there?
Gotcha. So high school, usually a lot of high schools have bowling programs, but in Maryland we don't have high school bowling programs, so it was a little more difficult to put myself out there, being as though traveling is quite expensive, bowling isn't a very cheap sport. So it's all about getting your name out there, bowling those tournaments. The main tournament that I bowled was Junior Gold. It's a national tournament. You have to qualify for it each summer, and there's thousands of bowlers there, and that's where I got recruited at by Coach Glenn White, who was here before. And so it all took mainly bowling sports shot leagues. It took bowling a lot of out-of-state tournaments to get to where I am. So it's all about your dedication and your discipline to be good in your sport, to be able to, put your name out there and show people that, you're a good bowler and that you're worth being on somebody's team.
Yeah, and off rip, like I said, bowling is one of those, like you even mentioned, it's an expensive sport to get into. So it's not something that it's different from like basketball. You go to Walmart, you go to Sports and wherever you get your sports stuff.
Right.
You get a basketball, go outside, start practicing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But bowling, it requires a lot more access.
Yes.
It requires the right people. So did you have a mentor before you got to college? Did you have a mentor? Who were the pivotal people in your life as your bowling career started?
Gotcha. So I'd have to say my dad has played one of the biggest roles in who I am today as a bowler. He also got me into, that mentality of, this is something you want to do, do it. And he also helped me with that move from my first bowling center to the Army base with my coach Yogi, who has then, elevated my game tremendously. And I feel like without him and my father, I don't think I would be the bowler or the person and the mentality that I have today.
You mentioned the Army base. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what's I'm just asking questions.
Yeah, no. So, it's just the bowling center on base has a lot of people who have bowled on tour, who are staffed with a lot of different bowling brands. And we basically that bowling center has a lot more equipment to help us as far as things like it's a lane monitor where it can see your rotation. It tells you it shows how your ball is going down the lane. We have things like torch that help with accuracy, and mainly the coaches have a lot more knowledge there. So I went there to, get better and get on a higher level and get more knowledge and understanding of the sport of bowling. So making that move to that bowling center really helped me mentally, physically, and all that to get better in this sport.
So, with all that you're saying, all I'm hearing is you've had a lot of pivotal people in your life that has helped you get to this point, right? But one thing that you know that you had to do was make the decision to go play collegiate bowl, play collegiate bowler, but to bowl collegiate in the collegiate circuits. So, what was your decision coming to Prairie View? How was that conversation with your father, with your family, with yourself to make that jump from high school to the pros or collegiate pros?
Yeah, so it was actually not really a hard decision for me. I had already kind of made my mind up as far as, I wanted to go someplace away from home. I wanted to get that experience of, being on my own, living as an adult, So it was hard on my parents' side because they were like, oh my gosh, because I'm from Maryland. So if you drive from here to Maryland, it's 23 and a half hours, So like, oh, we're sending our baby girl so far away, but my dad was like, if this is something that you really want to do and we're going to support you in this. So it was easy, but it was still, sometimes it gets hard, being away from family and stuff. But I wanted to be away. I wanted to bowl with a successful program. And this was the place that I decided to call home.
Well, not only did you want to bowl with a successful program, you've added to the successful program as well. I mean, just before we went live, you were talking about your freshman, your sophomore, your junior year. And your junior year, you told me about your highest bowled game. I'm going to let you tell them what, when we get to that question, because it's astonishing to me. My highest is 130, So your freshman year, you made second team SWAC. You made the all-conference postseason team. If I'm not mistaken.
Yep, first.
And then you had other notable performances as well during your freshman year. You were SWAC freshman of the year, like I said.
Yes, I was.
Talk about your freshman year. Because it's a lot more that goes into being an athlete here. Right. We know. You have to balance the social life part of it. You have to balance every other aspect. You're still you're young. You're a young adult now going to college, and like I said, you're almost 24 hours away from marriage. You're 24 hours away from home.
Right.
So, what was it like being a freshman bowler, being successful, and just balancing life in general?
So at first, I will say, when I first came here, I really did have a hard time with time management. That's always been a problem with me. I procrastinate a lot. So the first couple months were a little, difficult. But once I finally sat down, learned time management skills and just finally, got acclimated to the schedule and learning that I had to do workouts, having to go from workouts to practice and managing your time and stuff like that. But it's all about how you, as a person, how you function and what works best for you. So if you figure out what's best for you, then it makes everything so much easier. So once I finally got, acclimated to everything and figured out my own schedule that worked for me, it was good. And once you do good in your sport and you have that time to practice and stuff, it makes you want to keep going. It makes you want to keep getting better. So freshman year was it started off rocky, but at the end, it was all worth it.
Of course, yeah. Seeing the accolades, seeing what you've accomplished. I mean, you're contributing to this successful program already. So let's talk about your sophomore year. Your sophomore year, what was the biggest change in your game that you feel from your freshman year to your sophomore year?
I feel like my sophomore year, it was more, I had a couple injuries throughout the season, so it was more of like a mental and physical battle, but I feel like I was still successful. I had to work on my skills. There were some things like spares and accuracy that I still had to work on, but I felt like I was getting better mentally, physically, and being better at repeating shots. So that's ultimately what helped my average go up a little bit more than did freshman year, and ultimately what led to my junior year.
So I'm gonna just stop you right here real quick. Y'all practice the same shot and are able to get the same spin on the ball every single time.
Well, you see, that's the thing. Sometimes, and not all the time you're gonna have the same rotation. Sometimes, it might slip off your hand. You might, I don't know, something might be wrong, things happen, but it's all about, when you work on your accuracy, you work on your first ball, it helps you to memorize that feel on the ball. So that way, hey, if I just threw this ball okay, that was not right. Or
Okay.
you could say, yeah, that was a good shot. It came off my hand
Huh,
good.
okay, because typically for those that are watching, we just kind of throw the ball down the lane,
Right.
hope and pray to God that it hits something. You know what I mean? So that's it. Just shows how much dedication you have to your craft.
Yes.
I think that's the biggest part of all of this. This is a skill finesse sport.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Compared to other sports, typically the bigger you are, the bigger the advantage in some regards.
Right.
But in this sport, it's all about skill, tenacity, and that time dedication to your sport. And we've seen that, seeing it your junior year. I mean, you were just named SWAC Bowler of the Year.
Yes.
So clap it up for Jayda Gordon. But you also bowled, and correct me if I'm wrong, 268 as your highest game this year.
Yes.
And granted, for a lot of people, we're never touching 268. But even your bowling average of 205, it's like that's on average. So it's like, how many strikes is that a game? Or a match?
Maybe like 5.
Well,
at least.
At least.
At
most, I'm getting maybe one or two at the most.
Depends. If you spare the whole game, you can have a double. You have 2 strikes in a row, then you can get hit too. But
I wish I could bowl like you. I really wish I could. I'd be amazing at main event hangouts. But seriously though, your junior year, it's star-studded. This is the second year consecutively making all SWAC team. Just talk about that. I mean, I know there's a lot going on in that too. I mean, the success is just, we see it. You know what I mean? So talk a little bit about your junior year.
So my junior year, actually, it started off a little rocky. The end of my sophomore year, I had a lot of mental battles going on, So throughout the summer, it was kind of hard. I did have some mental challenges throughout the summer, but I knew that I wanted to come back and that I wanted to be better, and I wanted to win Bowler of the Year because throughout the tournament in my sophomore year, I was in second by like 20 pins. I was right there, and I had that one game that took me down. So I was like, I'm coming back for vengeance. Like I wanted that Bowler of the Year. That's always been my goal since I've been here, is to get Bowler of the Year. And putting in that extra time, that extra dedication. We have practice in the morning from 8 to 9:30. Well, at least for me, practice from 8 to 9:30, and then when my day is over, I'm still back at the bowling alley for 3 hours at night doing my own thing, to perfect my craft, because I want to win. That's my main thing. I love to win, and I have that dedication, and that dedication is getting me where I am now, and I feel like even now, I'm not perfect now, but with more practice and dedication, I can be even better than I am right now.
Of course. So there's a lot of stuff that we've talked about today. Granted, we don't want to focus solely on your bowling career. We want to focus on you as a person. So what we did with other athletes on here, we kind of asked them, we want to know more about you as a person. So what is something that people don't know about you, or that you don't, typically tell people that you do feel comfortable sharing on here?
Oh, yeah, of course. Well, I was a pitcher for softball. I used to play softball.
Okay.
I also played basketball as well.
Okay.
What else? Let's say some of my hobbies. I like to build puzzles. I love doing puzzles and building Legos. But I'm also a very big music head. I love R&B music.
Okay.
I sit and listen to R&B all the time, even when I'm just walking to class or taking a shower, anything like that. I always have music playing.
What is your top 5 R&B albums of all time? If you
albums, I don't know if I can say albums.
Songs.
But artists? I can say artists.
Okay, cool.
Because I like to listen to new school R&B and old school, but right now I love Brent Fayez. Okay. Sonder.
Okay.
Leon Thomas.
Okay.
Giveon.
Okay.
And what was the last one? I don't know how to say it. Georgia Smith?
Yes.
I think that's her name.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a solid 5. Okay, that's a solid 5.
I love R&B.
For sure. So with your interest, I know we heard basketball and softball too. Were those sports, did those sports in any way help you to get to the athlete that you are now?
Well, actually, I feel like softball really had a huge impact on me, only because, I know you're probably going to be like, what? But I was a pitcher, and I had also gotten a bruised rotator cuff at some point, so I stopped, playing all other sports after that. So it was kind of just it's bowling. Bowling is the one sport that I'm going to have to do now, and so that's just what got me to keep doing bowling and just taking it full time.
Okay, cool. So we're dwindling on time. It's been a great conversation. I've learned a lot about you. People that are watching learn a lot about you. So what is something that you would like to leave to the viewers as we wrap up today's show?
I just like to say that as an athlete, I love to preach that make sure that you take care of your mental health. Your mental health plays a big role in who you are as a person, and it'll help you with your game as well if you take care of your mental health. And to just always strive for your dreams, and if you put in the time and dedication, then your dreams will come true.
Beautifully said. And we thank you, Jayda, for coming on here. SWAC tournament is going to be, you said Thursday?
It starts Friday and Saturday, or
Got
Sunday,
you.
excuse me.
Got you. So people on Panther Sports Zone here, we're going to be covering that whole thing. So you'll be showcased in the next couple episodes of Panther Sports Zone. But we're going to be posting, updating you guys on the accuracy of, kind of what's going on through the tournament. We're going to keep you guys up to date with other sports news. But we have had a successful episode here with Jayda Gordon. It's been a great episode. And we give you guys all, energy, all power towards this tournament. We're supporting you guys every step of the way. And congratulations again for making SWAC Bowler of the Year. We know how important that is to you, and we know how important it is to the program. So this has been Khalid Gray with Athletes Corner here on Panther Sports Zone, and I'm paired with
Jayda Gordon.
And it's been an excellent episode. We will see you guys in the next episode of Athletes Corner. Wow.